Let's dive into one of the worst monstrosities in Southeast Asia. The Cambodian genocide. This movement took place in Cambodia, which is located in Southeast Asia. The Khmer Rouge army, also known as the Red Khmers, was slowly built up in the jungles of eastern Cambodia during the late 1960s, supported by the North Vietnamese Army, the Viet Cong, the Pathet Lao, and the Chinese Communist Party. The Khmer Rouge attempted to create a Cambodian master race through social engineering, ultimately leading to the deaths of more than 2 million people in the Southeast Asian country. Pol Pot was a Cambodian revolutionary, dictator, and politician who ruled Cambodia as Prime Minister of Democratic Kampuchea between 1976 and 1979. Ideologically a Marxist, Leninist and a Khmer nationalist, he was a leading member of Cambodia's communist movement, the Khmer Rouge, from 1963 until 1997. His administration converted Cambodia into a one-party communist state and perpetrated the Cambodian genocide. The Khmer Rouge had taken power in the country following the Cambodian Civil War. During their brutal 4-year rule, the Khmer Rouge was responsible for the deaths of nearly a quarter of Cambodians. The Khmer Rouge's policies were guided by its belief that the citizens of Cambodia had been tainted by exposure to outside ideas, especially by the capitalist West. In an effort to create a society without competition, in which people worked for the common good, the Khmer Rouge placed people in collective living arrangements, or communes, and enacted re-education programs to encourage the commune lifestyle. People were divided into categories that reflected the trust that the Khmer Rouge had for them. The most trustworthy were called old citizens. The pro-West and city dwellers began as new citizens and could move up to deportees, then candidates, and finally, full rights citizens. However, most citizens never moved up. Those who refused re-education were killed in the fields. Killing fields dot the country, with more than 20,000 mass grave sites containing more than 1.38 m bodies. The largest of the killing fields was Choang Ek, which sits on the outskirts of Phnom Penh and today serves as a monument to all those who died, and those who survived. The Khmer Rouge referred to people who supported their vision as pure people and persecuted anyone they deemed impure. Within days of taking power, the regime killed thousands of military personnel and forcibly moved millions of people out of cities, killing anyone who refused or was too slow. The regime forced families to live communally with other people in order to destroy the family structure. The Khmer Rouge targeted ethnic minorities, especially Chinese, Vietnamese, and Muslim Cham, of whom an estimated 80% were killed. In addition, anyone who was believed to be an intellectual was killed. Doctors, lawyers, teachers, and even people who wore glasses or knew a foreign language became targets. Specially targeted were the inhabitants of the areas close to the Vietnamese border. By the end of 1972, most North Vietnamese troops had left the country. Going forward, the Khmer Rouge relied mainly on China for weapons. The North Vietnamese, meanwhile, remained closely aligned with the Soviet Union. A growing rift between the world's two communist superpowers would soon be mirrored in divisions between the Cambodian and Vietnamese communists. As the Cambodian War continued, U.S. involvement remained unpopular at home. Incredibly, big power machinations awarded Cambodia's contested seat in the United Nations to the regime of Pol Pot, now exiled on the Thai border, rather than to the People's Republic of Kampuchea, PRK, which later gained de facto control of the country. PRK was isolated politically and economically, although the former Soviet Union and its allies, including a number of non-aligned countries, notably India, continued to support and recognize it, but were outvoted in the General Assembly. Vietnamese troops stayed in the country until 1989, with armed clashes between Vietnamese and Cambodians going on throughout the 1980s. A post-Pol Pot government with some democratic features, led by a re-established monarchy, took over. Yet the Khmer Rouge did not disappear until much later and continued to hold Cambodia's seat at the United Nations for 12 years. On October 23, 1991, the Comprehensive Cambodian Peace Agreement was brokered by the United Nations, ending the 12-year civil war in Cambodia. Cambodia was temporarily governed by the National Council and the United Nations Transit Authority of Cambodia. In May 1993, the first free elections in more than 20 years were held. In January 2001, the Cambodian government established the Khmer Rouge Tribunal to try the leadership of the Khmer Rouge for crimes against humanity. Trials began in 2009 but have led to only 3 convictions, including that of Kang Guek Eve, the commander of the S-21 prison, who was sentenced to life in prison for crimes against humanity. The vast majority of the perpetrators suffered no consequences for their actions.